Okay, hey, welcome back to New Spirituality. This is George, and I've got a lot in store for you today. I'm really excited. I've been really thinking about these forms and shapes and following up on my last video where I broke the fruit of life into 64 spheres, and I wanted to transition and transform that and build it again with these little magnetic building blocks here. And we're going to play a little bit with these. They're pretty fragile, but I've got two forms that I'll be showing you that are related to this. I'll be bringing back the Octahedron shape. And I got a lot of new, neat discoveries. I mean, playing with the blocks this week and asking some questions and really trying to figure out where is the flower of life within these designs. So just like before, I'm going to do the screen share and go back and forth between the forms. I know a lot of viewers have contacted me on Facebook and messaged me and asked about, if things, some beginner type of entry level material. And this is kind of the basics. I'm really walking you through the way to really start thinking and looking at these forms. I mean, I could go through the basics and show you, all the platonic solids, the octahedron and the star tetrahedron, which I'm doing. So all that information is in there. But I want to show you how this is evolving in working with new forms like this one that I just, created today. It's one that has already been, that's out there, but it's going to play into this big time in just a second. So, so in terms of the basics, there's other resources you can look up, other sacred geometry sites, and there's a lot available. I'm really distilling all that information down and condensing it in a way that pulls it all together, and makes it three-dimensional for you. So let's jump into the screen share, and that will help guide us through where we're headed. Okay, now I know you've probably getting used to this slide. You've seen it probably in the other two videos. Yet I'm going to start here again, and we're going to move through this pretty quickly. We have these 6 octahedrons in the middle again, right? So octahedron, remember, is this 8-sided shape, and off of each of those, we can build a star, a little tetrahedron. And if you put 8 of those around there, you've got, that's a tetrahedron up here in the corner. You build, here's a mini star tetrahedron shape, okay? Right now you're looking at it kind of like that, little star tetrahedron shape. So I've got 8 of those little shapes that look just like that. And I'm going, or 6 of them, excuse me, 6 of them. And at the center of each of those, we know is an octahedron. So when we piece this all together, and I'm going to do it pretty quickly, we're going to come up with a shape that I've been kind of fascinated with recently. And, the reason I'm revisiting this again is because the big question that I have going into this is, where does this shape show up in the flower of life? Okay, because this is in the flower of life. I showed you that last time. And we have the 6 joining together. Now, the seed of life is a circular form. If you just took a compass and draw 6 concentric circles with 1 circle in the center that joins them together, that would be 1 and 6 around. But right here, I don't have an octahedron that's represented in the middle. So I'll show you, because this is really the dilemma that I was working with. Last time I showed you with the Octahedron shape, we had this and this one over here. And when we join these together, there's 6 octahedrons coming together. 6 octahedrons coming together, just like so. I've got this little star tetrahedron, don't mind that right now. but you have 6 together, and there should be one in the middle, and that would be what is called the seed of life. But because I can't put that extra octahedron in the middle, because it's going to run into all these materials, we have to kind of visualize that it's there. And after doing this exploration this week, I think that what I've done is figured out a way with the drawings and combining 2 shapes to figure out how to put that missing shape in the middle, because we've been building with shapes like this and either be able to build it one way or the other way with it in the middle. See, if it's in the middle, we have that shape in the middle, well, then it's going to be like that. We'll have that shape in the middle and the 3 coming off it, and then we'll have 6 around that. I'm going to show you all this in a minute. Or it's the other way. But we don't have any form out there that shows you both at the same time. We've only really been able to draw that in the flower of life image. That's what the flower of life is showing us, that really there's 7 here. But when we build with the blocks and all these little blocks like these things, we're not able to have the little center ball that should be in the middle of this, unless we're using little tiny blocks, and we can build it really, really big. But the majority of the time, we're either stuck looking at it one way or the other and not both. So throughout this presentation, what I did was try to combine both the forms together. And you'll see how that's going to work out in just a minute. So here we go. We've done this form, and you know, I wanted to figure out, and it took a little while to figure out how to build it, because there's 7 star tetrahedrons right now joining together to create this form. So if you're looking at that form, I'll fix this real quick. I'm going to really be zipping back and forth between the screen share. So there's one of the star tetrahedrons by itself. Now this is just one of them, is going to be joining into that form, and there's going to be 6 of them total. And when we get that complete version, this is what it looks like. Okay, so here is 1, 2, 3. Those are each the top points of a star tetrahedron, a full one that's joining down, 3 on top, and now there's 3 from the bottom coming up into that. And the way we normally are looking at that form is like this. And that's what you're going to be seeing with my drawing. You have 1 a little higher in the back and 2 lower, and same thing, 1 higher and 2 lower back here. And then in the middle, you're going to see 3 here and then 3 behind it. But actually, there's some depth to those. So this is the 3-dimensional version of this view. And this is the one that we're going to put into some of the points of the flower of life. Now, the main dilemma here that I'm going to keep pointing back is right in the middle. If I can point to that, do I have something I can point to that with here? I think I do. Oh yeah, here we go. I'll use the spiral pointer. A little spiral pointer. So down in the middle, down in here, down in the center point, right in there. That's the center of the structure. Can you see that wiggling around down in there? Yep. So right here we have a center point. And this is primarily how we've been building these forms, because I could turn this into a big star tetrahedron. And if we build it the other way with the octahedron, with the star tetrahedron in the middle, like this, we don't have a center point in the middle. We need both of those together, but structurally, we're not able to build them together with these blocks unless I make it really large. So let's go back to the sharing the screen. So here is a photograph of what I was just showing you. And this is what it looks like as a flat representation that I can just put right over top. Now, all the points aren't going to line up exactly. They will if it was flat, but remember, this is now a photograph of a 3D object with some points that are closer to you, just like my hand is closer to you, and my head is very small back here. My hand is not that much bigger than my head. Here it is in relationship. So those little points in the back here that you see are just further away than the ones up top. So this is going to look a little like these points are not lining up down here. Well, that's because this is a flat representation of it. And when you look at it three-dimensionally, you have the depth perception that changes that up. But essentially, it's showing us the same thing. And that's why the flower of life, the 3D image, the flat image we see of those concentric circles are just always making it look flat, and we're losing all that depth. So at the middle of this is the octahedron shape with a little bit more to it. Remember, the octahedron shape is just the 8-sided shape. We're looking at that right now, just like with the front face, and it's got that little triangle in the middle. And that fits right in there, just like so. So in the middle of that, those are the 8 octahedrons that have come together here. This is a little pyramid. One here, and one here. Those are the 4 pyramids. You're just looking at it if there's a flat view from the front. 1 pyramid, 2 pyramid, 3 pyramids. That's a 4-sided pyramid. You just can't see the side on the back. And those were the same pyramids, if we go back to the very first slide, that were in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 pyramids, 6 octahedrons coming together. So that's where that form is within this structure. All right, now if we were to build that out just one step further from there, we're going to add on a top piece, and we're going to take another star tetrahedron. So here's the shape I was just showing you that's at the center still. And right now, we're going to add in another star tetrahedron from the top. Now, this shape right here is the isotropic vector matrix and the vector equilibrium, the 64 tetrahedron grid. So there are 64 little tetrahedrons. Here's one at the top, all the way throughout the whole structure of this shape. And, you know, this is just a quick little mock-up I did of it, just so you could see it over top. You've got a big cuboctahedron, which is this shape in the middle, this kind of ballooned out shape around the regular star tetrahedron. So over here on the side, you'll see I'm going to be calculating these numbers again because I'm trying to find out what we have represented in here so far, because so far we know we have 6 of the original octahedron in there. And when we add in these star tetrahedrons, I'll show you in the next slide, each of those, there's 8 of them coming together, and every star tetrahedron, right? Every star tetrahedron has that little octahedron, which just collapsed on me. We'll use the big one. It has an octahedron at the middle. Okay, so every one of those has that. So we've just added 8 more octahedrons that have star points coming off of them, tetrahedron points coming off of them to give you the full star tetrahedron. There are going to be 8 of those now. So we have 8 plus 6, so we have 14 total. Notice we don't have anything at the center of this structure. We just have the single point in the middle, but we don't actually have a star tetrahedron at the middle, yet one does exist. There's a lot of other star tetrahedrons that exist in this, but we're not able to build it that way with the blocks the way they are. And this is the 64 matrix, tetrahedron matrix, is the one that Nassim Haramein is focused a lot on in his research in quantum physics. And he realized that there were 32 tetrahedrons pointing up and another 32 pointing down. And that's why he calls it 64, because 64 tetrahedrons are going down and 64 are going up. Now those tetrahedrons, they're not, they're just side by side. They're not linking together in the middle. And what I'm going to show you in a little bit is how another version of this where they're actually linked together, so you have a small star tetrahedron in all of those. So this is what our totals are right now. I discovered today that when we build out to that octahedron to have 8 and 6, we've just built what is known as the egg of life, meaning that those spheres that are around those octahedrons are going to touch the center point. Those tetrahedrons are going to meet the center of this. So that's another 14 total for this. So let me just show you real quick how this is all being built. I'm going to quickly build that 64 tetrahedron grid, the isotropic vector matrix, the way Nassim Haramein builds this. So there's nothing in the center of this, okay? What happens here is he's going to construct the center by taking a star tetrahedron, they're all going to be red, and the points are all going to meet in the middle here. And when they do, they're making a little cuboctahedron in the middle this way. It's going to be a little cuboctahedron and a bigger cuboctahedron around it with star points coming out of it. So we build this out really quick. And we're just putting every point in the center, and it's going to be 6 around the outside. And these outer points here, these little tips, that is exactly where the point for the fruit of life, when you draw Metatron's cube around this and link them together, that's where that point would be. So there's a quick rendition of basically this shape. There's 2 more. Let me just put those in. They're on the top. Remember, it is a 8-sided, 8-pointed form. So that one would be on the top. And let's just pretend that this one would be on the bottom, like so. So we have 8 fusing together like that. And then we're going to take, just a quick version here. We'll drop that over top. And that's, pretty much just a rough version overview of what it looks like, the most solid lines. So that's the view of how you construct that isotropic vector matrix. Now I just put together 64 tetrahedrons, and I also did construct, while doing that, the 14 octahedrons. So this essentially contains the flower of life in it, yet it adds an additional piece of those extra octahedrons that I showed you before, those 8 extra, which are going to be the egg of life. So it's a better way to think about this form, rather than it creating the flower of life, is that its octahedrons are centered on the egg of life form, okay? And those are these points on the sphere here. They don't actually, they just abut the outside of the central sphere. Now, I have these blue ones here because remember, I'm really interested in what this shape is in the middle, because there's a small octahedron in the middle of this that's contained within there that is made up of those original 6 octahedrons that were in there, these other stars that were in there. So remember, those are back in there too. And I guess I won't fiddle around putting them in there because I can hardly see where they're going in here right now. But you get the point that there's those other 6 that I've been talking about. And essentially, that is this shape again, right? Those are the 6 star tetrahedrons. And what you would be doing to create the vector matrix, the one Nassim Harriman focuses on, is you'd be plugging this one down in to the bottom, and it would go all the way to the center. All right, so it'd go down in to that little concavity down in the middle, and then these would be part of the points. They'd come out, and then you'd have a star at the top. And right here, this is essentially a octahedron that would be built on top of this. Right here, this would be the octahedron in the middle of this space when I close off those sides, and that would be where the other star tetrahedron would be. So the egg of life is containing that flower of life design and the seed of life within there. So let's go back to the screen share. And part of my work this week is interesting, you know, trails that I was following on this. We're really looking at this image because I watched a quick 2-minute image video of Nassim talking about the flower of life design, which is on the right. And this is one that is etched into Temple of Osiris, I believe, in Egypt. It's thousands of years old. They're quite fascinated with how it was done because it looks like it was laser etched into the rock very faintly, but it didn't look like with any tools that they would have had available at the time. So when we take this image and bring it back over to here and line it up, you'll see that the top point of this goes beyond that. And the flower of life is contained within this design. So I wanted to find out specifically where the flower of life is without it going beyond the confines of this design here. So I'm going to just shift gears because remember I've been talking about that we haven't had the center of the previous drawing, the 6 octahedrons. Remember I tried putting those together like this and you just can't fit them in there. So we've been building a lot of forms just out like this, you know, knowing that there's a center in there, but we're not actually putting in there. We can draw it in there the way I do here, and I'll do it again, but we can't actually build it in there very easily. And I might try to do it. I'm going to have to get a lot more little blocks to do it, but it will be quite a big structure because it's going to have a lot of pieces and might not be able to move it around too easily. But we're going to move on to this form because at the center of this is where we're going to have a center built now, is going to be a tetrahedron, star tetrahedron at the middle of that. So there's one star tetrahedron at the middle and one octahedron at the middle. And that's now going to be surrounded by 12 other octahedron. So it's 1 around 12. And in my last video, I called this a cuboctahedron, and I said that I would take it apart for you because I was had it bigger as like a big octahedron. And what I did was took it apart so we can take a look at what I was calling the cuboctahedron last time, which actually is a different shape that I've never built. And it was contained within this lovahedron shape the whole time. And I didn't realize it till today. And it's become, you know, pivotal for the discoveries of where I'm going to be going with this in just a moment. So here's the 3 at the bottom. Here's the 1 in the center. And remember, if I put this on top, like so, that's if it's going to be in the center. if we put it on the bottom like this, that's when we just have 6. We always, but in how it really works is that both those forms are together. They're not separate like I'm going to build them now. I have to make a choice between going one way or the other, or I'd have to smash this together and somehow get that octahedron in the middle there. So we're building this form out this way, and we take this little rosette of another 6 octahedrons, which are going to fit right around this, and I'll pop this on there really quick. Almost quick. Oh, here, this is how it wants to go. Okay, here we go. Taking a little longer than normal. Okay. Okay, whew. That took a little bit. All right, so here we go. We've got those 6 around one, and then we have those 3 on the bottom. And I haven't shown you in this form yet what it looks like this way, because normally what I have had in the past is I've had these larger larger star forms coming off these corners here like that to make a full octahedron form that you've seen in some of the other videos. If you had watched them, they'll fit in like that, and I'll have 6 of those around this. But today I'm just going to show you this one. And when I first built it a long time ago, I said, wow, look at that. It's Cuboctahedron, right? Because what I saw was that there was 1, 2, 3 in this triangle form and another 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4 like that. So it looked to me very similar to the classic Cuboctahedron shape. And today I discovered that it's somewhat true, but it's actually something different. And what I had to figure out was that I had to continue to, from the top view, I had to connect this line here to this line going around to here, to here, to here. So that makes an octagon. I mean, not octagon, sorry, a hexagon, right? So we have a hexagon, a 6-sided shape going around here. 6 sides here. And that's going to happen all the way around this. And this will be just a little square when we do that. So we're going to have a square, a hexagon, a square. Okay, this will be another hexagon shape. And I was like, wow, that's really neat. So I built that with these little, actually, I built it first with these blocks like this. There's the hexagon shape. There's the square off to the side. There's another hexagon, another square, like that. So we have hexagons. We have actually 8 hexagon faces all the way around this and 6 square faces. And what I was doing with that form is I was just building an octahedron off the top of each of these because there's 6. So this is actually one of the Archimedean solids, which I'd seen a picture of before, so I knew that it was something I could find out more about. And it's essentially just a truncated, meaning that it's an octahedron where they just nipped off the tops like this all the way around. If those were pointed out all the way around at those 6 spots, I just have a big octahedron shape in my hand. But the way this is being built now is very different because at the center of this, instead of it having that one center point, which the previous form that I was showing you, which was this one, right? That has one center point. This one has empty space in the middle that is going to go around that center ball in the middle of this one. These 2 forms are going to be linked together. They're meant to go together. You have this pointy one over here, and you have this more spherical round one over here, and they're going to link up. And I can't actually do it with both of them in the form like this, like I said, because all the nodal points between here, they're going to be meeting like this at their cross sections. So I'd have to get a lot more blocks to make a small, have each of these be one of the half sections rather than a full length. But it should be possible to build this linked up together. And I don't think I've ever seen it done before that way, where these two are together, where you have the center point and the octahedron that surrounds it. So now at the center of every single one of these octahedrons in here is now actually going to have a center ball, the way it should be. Everything, all those octahedrons should have a center point, but in our construction materials, we just haven't been building them like that or thinking about them like that. So we're going to link them together that way. So let's take a quick look where I am in the sharing the screen. So this is just what I was saying before. Now at the center of that, when you put those 8 octahedrons together in that form, there's a star tetrahedron right at the middle of that. I guess I didn't it's hard to see in there with everything that's going on, but at the center of that is this star tetrahedron, just one star tetrahedron. You do all those 8 octahedrons essentially just to build one star tetrahedron like this. The cool thing about it is this star tetrahedron all of a sudden now has kind of this field around it of these 8 octahedrons, right? So this form, let me show you again, this truncated octahedron at the center of this has a star tetrahedron in the middle of it. And all this other material around it is like a spherical circle around it. You know, you could draw a sphere right around this, and inside would be that star tetrahedron. And we're going to link that up in a second here. But now we're doing the little calculations on the side, because now finally I have one at the center, one octahedron at the middle, and then I have the 12 around it for 13 total. So here's a picture of it, and Da Vinci, you know, his work is fantastic. You know, he drew the Cuboctahedron. Here is his drawing with the square face and the hexagonal faces along the side here, the hexagon shapes. And now what I've done is I've added all the internal structure to that open form that you see there, because it's made up of many, many tetrahedrons. And when I put this on here, remember, it's not going to be a perfect fit because of that depth perception thing. I'll put it on Flower of Life in just a moment. This is how it's going to fit up over top of that, looking down. And these hexagonal faces are going to match up like so. So this is made up of 13 octahedrons that have come together to make this up. One at the center, 12 around, and it also contains 32 tetrahedrons. Now, those numbers are really neat because you'll see as I add them up, but the previous form that I showed you, the pointy one, right, the one with all the 7 star tetrahedrons, that had 32 tetrahedrons also, right? So they both have 32 tetrahedrons. And you're going to see why that's significant in just a moment. But before I jump into that, I just wanted to just take a quick aside, because I didn't really look up, I didn't really know a lot about this truncated octahedron today, other than I'd seen pictures of it. But I just did a quick search and came up with all sorts of fascinating research and science behind people studying this shape. And the top left here, this is them looking at carbon atoms. This is, we're getting down, like last time we got into the cellular structure. Today we're focused on the atomic structure of gold when different pressure is applied to it and the different forms that it takes. And you'll see that many of the shapes, the octahedron, a cube type of shape, the icosahedron, we haven't talked much about that. The Truncated octahedron is down here. Here's the truncated octahedron right here. Regular cuboctahedron, octahedron. So this is gold. We're talking about atoms, and these are packed with these little spheres, okay? Now, the flower of life is just showing you one holographic view of that. And, you know, remember, you can go infinitely small and cluster them together, or expand it infinitely larger and larger spheres and do the same thing. So they're calculating how many of these little spheres are packed in there. And this is what their information here is. On the side, with the flower of life, we're doing it with the set size spheres that they gave us in that design to work with. So let's take a look at, this is now the flower of life. This is where it is contained and what it looks like. And it's the joining together of these two forms that I've been working with that I don't really know has been done before in this way, because I can't do it with the materials like I showed you before. It's getting fragile. Right, I can't join them together this way because they're gonna collide, but I can do it in this drawing here. And every point is gonna come together. So when I take the red one, the pointy one with the spherical one, and join those two together in the center, then we have the complete overlay of the flower of life, which are these 19 circles that come around here. And here's the math on the sides, right? So this one on the left, the red one, was built off of the seed of life. It should have one in the center, but all I had was those 6 octahedrons that I was talking about at the beginning. And I built it with those 6 large star tetrahedrons. And it had a total of these 6 octahedrons and a total of 32 tetrahedrons. Now, for the one on the right, the spherical blue one, we had 1 in the center, because now I could finally get it in the center. And I had those 12 octahedrons around it. So I had 13 total, and that was that truncated octahedron. And that created this one large star tetrahedron. So then I have 13 octahedrons total and 32 star tetrahedrons. And the math is down here at the middle when I just add them up. So we have 7 large star tetrahedrons coming together. Now that's significant because we have basically a 7 around 1 that just showed up. And that's the seed of life again. See, this is a repeating pattern, 7 around 1. We have 1 at the center and the 6 around, those 6 tetrahedrons around, 7 large star tetrahedrons. We have 19 octahedrons within this shape, right? The octahedron, remember, is this little shape here. There's 19 of those little shapes like this in that. Now that's a significant number because remember, the flower of life, the drawing, is made up of 19 spheres. Each of these are essentially representing one of the spheres in the flower of life. 19 of these, 19 spheres. Okay, so that's 19, 19. And then we have a total of 64 tetrahedrons. And when those now are linked together, they're not just like passing by one another, they're actually joined in a way when they fit, they're gonna make star tetrahedrons now, like this. This one has a collapsed side. Let me see if I can fix that. There we go. We've got star tetrahedrons joining together because we have an upward pointing triangle, tetrahedron, and a downward pointing one. Now, all those, when they come together and link together in the middle, those 64 star tetrahedrons are going to make 32 small star tetrahedrons, right? Because now we have one full star tetrahedron. So we have 32 small star tetrahedrons within there. So just to show you where those are, like there's one star tetrahedron joined. There's a downward pointing triangle, upward one. Remember, there's a point going up and a point going down. Now they're so densely packed in there because it's 3-dimensional, you're only going to see some on the surface. The other ones are back behind those. But we have essentially created and constructed the flower of life, you know, exactly how it is in this form, you know, that is joined these two together. And we've got the same numbers for the spheres of the flower of life. And the other neat thing that I'll have to explore a little later is that this is another type of 64 tetrahedron grid. There's 64 tetrahedrons in there, except now they're joined together into star tetrahedrons of 32. And this got me thinking again about the I Ching. It has 64 trigrams. And in the I Ching, you have, let's just say, some of those 32 and 32, there's ones that are, I guess you could call them programming partners, or they mirror one another. And they're essentially tied together, meaning that if you had an upward pointing triangle, meaning that it was a yang energy one, you would have a yin version of that, would be the downward pointing triangle, or whichever way you want to point them. But essentially you have a conglomeration of two coming together. So you have 32 pairs that equal 64. And to me, this is a much more accurate representation of the balancing effect between those pairs, because now they're not passing by one another. They're actually linked together into the star tetrahedron form, which is a sign of union, unity, balance. You have the upward and the downward coming together in this. So that is what the flower of life, for me, in following this trail out over the week, and really having to come up with a whole new form to work with, this truncated octahedron, has really opened up a whole new level of exploration. And I followed out some new trails and started designing some new images that I'd never done before. So I wanted to, you know, take out a lot of lines in there because it got really kind of chaotic with just so many lines. You can't see that it's a spherical shape. It doesn't look much like this one or the other one. But like I said, I can't join them together, but I can graphically represent them accurately of how it might look. So here, what I've done is these are the two forms together, and I've never seen this image before until today when I was working on putting it together. Because what we have now is the little star tetrahedron peaks coming through the top and the ones, the flat ends, coming out the sides. And this tip, you know, that upward point is basically creating some of the corners for the truncated octahedron shape, this one here, right? The more spherical one. But you do have some points that are coming out of the top. And remember, there's going to be 32 star tetrahedrons packed into that. And you've got the 27, I believe, was it 27? No, 19 octahedrons in this, 19 octahedrons, and the 32 star tetrahedrons joining together. So, I mean, it's an interesting looking form, and that's the flower of life represented. You know, it's, you know, all the points here are meeting up, every single point. Now, of course, I've taken some of these lines out because they're, pretend this is like a flat face you can't look through now. So this is all flat faces. You're not able to see through it three-dimensionally at all. This would be something you could pick up and move around. So now the next step that I did was, these are octahedrons. If I join these triangles, 1, 2, 3, and I do those for all those faces, that's going to also create the top half of an octahedron that's not there. So I need to join those together because we're going to continue to expand this. I'm only going to go so far today, but I want to show you the next piece. So, you know, it's an unusual looking octahedron because halfway through the top half, you know, most of it is underneath this because we have, we've added a whole nother level of dimensionality to the matrix that we don't normally see when we're looking at these forms, because we're kind of like stuck into like one build. We haven't quite put them together and realized that there's two forms that are happening. We just follow one thing out and keep building. Now we've joined two together. And really the lovahedron shape was the thing that showed me that there was two forms and two ways of building these based on how we perceived it. And right now I'm kind of unifying, bringing those two perceptions together. The best way I can do it is with these drawings until I get the materials to build out the model bigger, which I'm going to do. So I tried to get as stylized as possible with this, and I tried to do some shading here with the colors to demonstrate, you know, the things were sloped. I'm definitely not a Da Vinci in that regards. I'm sure someone who's a very good artist who knows how to do some shading could show what's happening here better than I am. But I tried to, in this instance, cap off those top pieces. So this would be like raised up, coming out of that hexagonal face. Now we can't see the back side because that's covering it. And same thing on the top. Here's that hexagon. And now we have kind of like half a triangle, you know, half a tetrahedron with the middle cut off of it, because we could build these peaks out all the way. But right now we just have these little flat surfaces ready to accept the next tetrahedron that would be built on top of it right here. It's essentially, no, I'll stop the share here and show you what's going on there. So, you know, here's the pointy shape, and we've got 1, 2, 3 of these. And I'm just taking those little blocks, taking apart my little octahedron I've got with me. And I'm just going to fill those in all the way around it. And I have to do, this is only one of them. And that's now created that top piece closed off. And I'll show you that that's an octahedron if I just remove these side walls without taking too much of everything else with me. Okay, so that's now an octahedron that's just sitting on top of there. But it did have originally these other pieces that came up like so. That was part of it. And that was shown in the other drawing, because that was, if you take them off, now you're back to the pointier version of this. So, you know, a lot of this is like, where are you going to cut your corners? Where are you going to draw your lines to describe where things are? You know, the way I went about that for this today was to just draw, you know, to define it as the flower of life. So I had to impose some boundaries to that unbroken wholeness to show you where the flower of life was contained within there. If I didn't, you know, shape it around the flower of life, that concentric circles just keeps going on and on and on. And they're really, the center is everywhere within every point, every one of these points, and of the other one are all centers, and even smaller and smaller centers within there. But see, the flower of life is just giving us a glimpse. It's giving us a kind of a window behind the scenes of what it looks like at different scales, from huge scales to small scales. So it's not really, it is not important to where we draw the lines. It's just giving us just a sampling of what's possible. All right, let's check out the sharing the screen with my stylized version of colors. So hopefully that helps. This is just linked off, and that's linked off, and you're only going to see 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them, because those are the top ones facing up. The other side is going to have it on the bottom. Here's 1, 2, 3. It's a different view because it's sloping now away underneath that. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and then at the very bottom, you'll have a 4 at the bottom, and that would be an opposite triangle of that. And now these little square rectangular pieces here, they're waiting to accept the octahedron shapes. So we build an octahedron off of those. And it just keeps building and building on and on like that. So to get this, we have now 7 large star tetrahedrons from before. But because I closed off those tops, that gave us 27 octahedrons total. So the numbers increased because I just added 8 to the 19. So now we're up to 27. And we still have the same for the tetrahedrons and the small tetrahedrons. So I want to just go back to the egg of life. Let me move that. I think that is in the way. Egg of life, which was the vector equilibrium isotropic vector matrix that Nassim Harriman's been working on, and show you where that is in here now and how it always contained the flower of life. So it's in there, yet it's also not fully defined as well, because where these octahedrons are showing up are actually at the egg of life spots, which are here. So as I go around and build this out, you'll see where the lines are for the previous shape that I did, which was that 64 tetrahedron grid. Now remember, I already have 64 tetrahedrons in there, except I've done it so they're overlapping. This is now contributing some of the same tetrahedrons that existed before. So it's adding all the inner structure that was already there, except it's only adding these outer tetrahedrons to the outside, right? But all the inner stuff was already there. But where that octahedron is focused is at the egg of life locations. And I did 6 around the outside. So remember, there's also going to be 1 on the inside. I mean, on the top, and 1 also. Now, if we could go underneath this and kind of plug this into the bottom, those would all join together. And each of those points would meet in the middle, and that would be the center point. Now, I just want to say once again, I have the numbers and the mathematics between all these tetrahedrons marked. My first video talked about that a lot. And all those numbers are just going to continue to add up to 9 at all these junctions, which I just find fascinating. That unification in the field, which this is saying it's a unified holographic field, also numerically shows up as completely unified under number 9 at all the nodal points when you do the addition of all the numbers and digitally compress them down to their essential number. That will always give you 9. So here's the 2 that we have: flower of life, egg of life patterns. And when we combine those numbers that I've been accumulating, this is now what you have. You've got a 15 large star tetrahedrons that have come together. Right? We had 8 now around the outside I did, but there was already 7 in there, 6 and the 1 in the center. And now we have 27 octahedrons built up. I added those octahedrons just in the previous slide on this one. Remember, I created those little caps. And then all we're doing is we're adding up the outer tetrahedrons to 4 at each of the locations on the outside, which gave us now a total of 96, another set of 32 tetrahedrons on the outside. Now, I can continue to do that same link star tetrahedron and turn those into full star tetrahedrons rather than single star tetrahedrons. And I may do that because we have to build out to the fruit of life, which is this point. Now, the tip of this star point is meeting at Metatron's cube. So we can get all the platonic solids and draw all of them in here right now. But there are some spheres here that don't actually have their own octahedron at the center. And my previous video, I actually did build this out all the way to get, I think, 65 total octahedrons to do the full build. So, but right now we're up to 27 and we've got a few more to go. But I want to refine that previous video a little bit, and I'll do that in the future. But I think this is a good addition for right now. So we've added those 32 tetrahedrons to the outside. And let's go back to a previous slide where I showed, this is from a quick talk with the flower of life. And this, in the video, they're talking about this being the flower of life. It's partially true. Yes, it contains the flower of life. But if we really want to say, hey, I'd like to figure out specifically where the flower of life is in the design just on its own, without using the 8 star tetrahedrons, joining together in the vector matrix way, then what we would do is we would use this form, the one that I was just showing you and talking about. Those two forms joined together, which does give you 64 tetrahedrons. They're just joined together into star tetrahedrons. And those points match up to every point on the flower of life in that design. And when we draw, when we bring that back over to here, you can see where that is contained inside that larger cuboctahedron and the star points that come out the side. So I think this is just a more accurate representation and really gets right into specifically where the flower of life design is in the using our geometric structures and forms three-dimensionally. And I think there's some unique application coming up here with these two forms that I was showing you. And I want to do one last thing that is going to add just one more piece to this, because I've been talking a lot about the fruit of life, the flower of life, seed of life, egg of life. And of course, there has to be a tree of life, right? And I've alluded to this in some previous posts and even in my last videos that yes, the tree of life is in there, and it's an actual geometric structure. Although once again, we've continued to look at it just as a flat image, a flat form, but it actually is three-dimensional and it's stacked on top of each other. So you can't just look at it flat on the ground. You have to look at it from a certain angle. And I took a photograph of that for you so you can see what the three-dimensional view of the tree of life looks like. So, basically we have an octahedron at the middle. Here's this structure right here. Let me, get off the screen, but let's just talk about the tree of life first. We have an octahedron at the top. It's built on top of another octahedron with some missing pieces and a tetrahedron at the bottom. And those are stacked on top of one another all the way down, but it's stacked on an angle rather than just one on top of the other. So here it is. And it's a little, I built it without the extra piece in here because that's the way it would look. So that's structurally what it looks like. And I can try and, it's a little tricky to get just in the right view. It might be tough for me to do for you. Wait, maybe, let me see here. Almost. Yeah, there it is. So there it is. That is the best I can do, I think, is you're looking at the top, the central star bit. There's an octahedron at the bottom, and then the tetrahedron at the bottom. I'll do it one more time, but I'm going to build out the strength of these pieces because the way they have it built, or the way it looks, is that these are loose because there's only two lines connecting, so it has to be like that. It's actually kind of cool to move around and see what places it goes to because they're all unique, part of the designs that you can do with this. But if I add in these structural pieces here just to make it a little bit more rigid, then I can actually give you one more view of it. And, I think it's important to realize that all these ancient structures and geometric forms and these flat drawings, just like the tree of life, is a geometry to it. And the I Ching and all those things, they're geometries. The DNA, it's a geometry. So we are going to take a quick look at this one again. Let me get it angled up for you. Okay, got a little more rigidness to the bottom. So there you go. That is what the tree of life looks like. You see that Star of David looking in the middle. You got the three balls down the outside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you count up all those, now there's some behind them, on the other side, there's one sticking out the back, but you don't see that because remember, if you're looking at it flat like this, you'll just count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. 11 spheres. And that's what the tree of life is made up of. So just to show you one more time on this, and that's the tree of life as represented in the Kabbalah mysticism tradition. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 spheres, and here it is again. So, you know, in building this, you'd be surprised. The way I discovered to build this hexagonal structure, the truncated octahedron, I actually started building it using the tree of life because I knew that the tree of life was in these. And I said, well, what if I just start building out with just these tree of life shapes? I wonder what I'll get. And then I said, wow, I'm starting to actually build that other form. So anyway, that was quite a whirlwind of information, a lot of new things to contemplate in there. And if you are new to sacred geometry and this subject and all these forms, I really think you're getting quite a download of information here that is at the same time covering a lot of the basics and also a little new, KNEW new as well, bit unique. And, you know, I've spent a lot of time looking and searching through the forms, a lot of time, hundreds and hundreds of drawings, building, you know, three-dimensional structures of the lovahedron. And I think you're really getting a good opportunity to kind of get into the three-dimensional view of this right away, entering at this point, rather than going through thinking about this all flat. You can do a million beautiful flat designs like this, but just remember what's behind them is that it's expanding your consciousness, expanding your mind's eye, expanding your third eye, your ability to see into the structures of things, see past the appearances, you know, getting into visualizing. And all that is directly related to what you are manifesting and how you're manifesting your life, building your ability to visualize how it is you perceive and see yourself in the world and see others. So I'm just really thankful that I had the opportunity to share my passion with you with all this. And I'll continue to put some more stuff out, maybe do a few more blog posts related to this. And until next time, I'm wishing you all a fantastic day, lots of love and peace and blessings. So have an excellent day.